and it freaked me out. And I said, I said, who's speaking to me? I said that aloud. And then I heard, well, this is another part of you, your higher self. But if that makes you uncomfortable, you can call us whatever you like. And I said, Wilhelm, don't know why I said that. Don't know. I'm not German. I don't have anybody with that name. And then over the years, it kept being revealed to me why I would have said that. But Blaine, it was, and I'll tell you, if anybody's moving through this, because I resisted doing it. I wasn't going to do it at all publicly. But in 2021, I'm sitting on my bed and I'm hearing, because I hear communication very clearly, and they said, well, you have to start speaking now. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I mean, they were talking about doing live channeling, and they said, well, we have too much. Exactly. That's exactly what I did. I said, no, not me. And I said, yeah, you got to. It says, you must. We have too much to say. I said, no, I'm not going to do it. And they said, well, you might have to break. And so what does that mean?
All right, my friends, I'm here with Roger Burnley, and he is a channel and a mystic, and he's also an author. And he's going to tell us a little bit about his journey to how that happened, and perhaps later on in the show we'll do a little channeling, if that's okay with you, Roger.
Sure.
Welcome to the show, Roger. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much. And I'm so glad you said that at first, how that happened, because that's really how it felt in my life. How did this happen? And I think a lot of people might feel that as they move through their lives. We change, and probably more people recently have felt that they were changing, because everything is changing. So.
Absolutely, yeah. There's an awakening of sorts going on, is the way I term it.
Yes.
That's awesome. So tell us how did this all come about? And did you think you were going crazy?
For most of my life, I would make fun of this many years ago. I said, I'm going to write a book, and I'm not crazy. My life makes sense, and how I found my life purpose. I thought that would be a great TED Talk, because I did doubt everything most of my life when I started receiving guidance. I never thought I would be doing what I'm doing. People can see that they might move into different areas, because we never know. I started doing just meditation in 1986, let's say. I was doing certain things I was studying Course in Miracles. I had done that, and some other Science of Mind, just other things. I wasn't really into that, but I started doing that. And then in 1988, I made a big shift in my life, left another job. I'd been in business for forever, and then I went into entertainment. So now I said, I'm going to do entertainment. This is in 1988. So then the year later, I was just struggling, because I'd left everything. I had no money, didn't know what I was going to do. And so I read an article about automatic writing. And I said, this guy in New York, he was having trouble with his business because he had done the same thing. And he heard about this process, getting information, getting guidance, and it worked for him. I said, oh, well, let me try that. Let me see. I was desperate. And so I was doing my regular meditation. So I said, let me try this. And I had paper and all that. A few days, nothing happened. And then one day, all of a sudden, it felt like something took over my hand, and I started writing. And it freaked me out. And I said, who's speaking to me? I said that aloud. And then I heard, well, this is another part of you, your higher self. But if that makes you uncomfortable, you can call us whatever you like. And I said, Wilhelm, don't know why I said that. I'm not German. I don't have anybody with that name. And then over the years, it kept being revealed to me why I would have said that. Then I kept going through. So I'm still receiving information. I'm writing it every day. I do not know why I'm saving these papers, because I thought, is this just a dream or something? But I just knew I was supposed to save them. And in 2008, I think it was, I had my business. I was at my office, and someone came in and found one of the messages. See, I had not let anyone see these, because it didn't make sense to me. And I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want to be talked about. I didn't want to be this weirdo, what I'm doing. But the fact was, it was telling me things that I didn't understand. It was healing things. It was I'm teaching performance then too. And it was giving me pointers on how to go about that. And then it started giving me things about healing from physical things that I was moving through. I said, I can't tell people this doesn't make sense. Then in 2008, after this person found one of my messages, said, where did it come from? I said, well, yeah, it came through me. I was being sheepish about it. And he asked me, well, could you send them to him? I said, yeah, I do it every day. So I started this little group of people on AOL. That's all I had at that time. And so put people on there. And I would just send them the messages every day, still not thinking anything about it. Then about 2012, other people started looking at this and they started talking about it a bit more. And this guy came to me and wanted to do a book. He was going to, because he had worked with someone that I knew. And I said, oh, but I wasn't thinking about that. I'm doing my music business. I said, I don't know. That went on for years. Then in 2019, I said, I got to talk because I know what's going on. I know what's happening with people. So I had been through so much fear in my life, and this information that they had given me helped me through this. And so I said, I'll write about fear. So I wrote a book called Overcoming Fear: A Guide to Freedom. And it was so funny. I said in the book, I said I wanted to write the book, but the only problem was I was afraid because I had to talk about how I did it. But I had a friend help me, and that's how it got out.
Cool. I'll tell folks that I want to tell folks I'll link the book in the description.
Perfect. Yeah. And so, but it was very honest because I wanted people to understand we all move through things, and I was really resistant. I'm hesitant to even do the book, but now people are like getting so much value from it, and we all do that when we become vulnerable to ourselves. We do offer valuable value to others, when we can do that. And so
Awesome.
that's where it started, and then changed in 2020.
So did you have when family and friends and people that were close to you found out about it? Did you lose any, or did you have some judging going on, or
Yes. Oh, yeah. There was one friend that I had from so many years. He said, well, I can't do this anymore. I said, oh, well, okay, that happens. When you, and that's going on for many people now, because we go through times where we will have splits in our consciousness, so to speak. And we're not always going to stay in the same place or with the same people or have the same beliefs or ideas. And we have to be willing to change. Change
yeah.
was so challenging, and I didn't want to do
Yeah, yeah. I feel you on that one. Yeah. So how about did you feel like you were going crazy at some point for a while
Oh
there?
yeah.
Or?
Especially when people were telling me that, people close to me, especially one good friend. And then they started to understand it later because I couldn't explain it. I was accessing cosmic guidance, and it didn't make sense. And if you haven't done it and have people watch that, it made no sense at all. But I said, well, we all have consciousness. How does it get formed? It gets formed from somewhere. Someone had to create it.
Yeah.
But all we do is pass it on, you see. We pick it up somewhere and we either use it for ourselves or pass it on to others. We're always doing something with it, but consciousness is always here.
That's awesome. It's really interesting that you said that it was your higher self, and because I have always thought that about channelers, and
Mhm.
and I'll be honest, I was skeptical of channelers in the beginning. Probably you probably were too at one point if you'd
Oh,
heard about.
completely.
But now that I've had some experience with the other side, so to speak, and some spiritual experiences, it's like, well, something's going on here,
Exactly.
and so I've come to the conclusion that it's the higher self, and yeah, and it may
And,
appear in.
but Blaine, it was, and I'll tell you, if anybody's moving through this, because I resisted doing it. I wasn't going to do it at all publicly. But in 2021, I'm sitting on my bed and I'm hearing, because I hear communication very clearly, and they said, well, you have to start speaking now. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I mean, they were talking about doing live channeling, and they said, well, we have too
Me?
much.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's exactly
yeah.
what I did. I said, no, not me. And I said, yeah, you got to. It says, you must. We have too much to say. I said, no, I'm not going to do it. And they said, well, you might have to break. And so, what does that mean? So then I decided, okay, I'll do it. And then they told me to use one particular message to begin this first session that I did. And I didn't understand why. And the message was very specific. It was power, love, money, women, money, love, power, and control.
Okay.
I go, and it was given to me in 2017. But this is 20. I said, why are you giving me? Why am I supposed to use this now? I didn't know why. But my instruction was very clear to use that one. And then when I started doing the session, they said, we wanted to tell you what you would be moving through in your world. And those are all the things that you're going to be happening. Throughout civilization, you have times where you have those who have power, who have money, who have control, and then some of you who don't. And so you keep moving through that in civilization to figure out who's supposed to have some and more or whatever. And this is
Right.
a period that we were moving through. And then they said that, you're moving through a restructuring is what they called it. And they said the United States will lead the way. I go, what? The United States we were in a mess when I'm receiving this. I don't know why is that going on. They said, because you have to change all the stuff you couldn't do before. Because when you come into the world, they said, when the United States formed itself, they said, we're going to create something more, something better, inclusive and accepting and for all. But you haven't done that. And so now you've got to figure out how you can get to that place. But it's in each individual, understanding what each individual came to offer. But to get there, we got to let go of the old stuff. We're
Yeah.
not always willing to do that.
Yeah. And we're seeing a lot of that old stuff starting to crumble in many ways. And so
That's, yes,
yeah,
Blake. I'll tell you, when I first started receiving this information, I was so uncomfortable. I wasn't going to talk about it because I could feel what they were telling me. I said, this is going to be terrible. And they said, no, it's going to be okay. They said, in civilization, you always move through these periods. You move through periods of conflict so that you can come to unity. And I said, what? No, that's what happens. They said, you'll have to go through this, and then you'll figure out better ways of living together and create something new. But this is just a very dynamic period. And they started showing me that it's energetically connected to the changes of our planets. I go, what? And it
yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah. And a lot of us can feel it. I guess there's some people that are kind of hanging on that aren't seeing it, and they're the ones
Exactly.
that will suffer the most. And there will be some bumps along the road, at least in my opinion, which
Oh, yes.
we've already seen. And we're going to probably see some more.
We're
And
going to see more. And that's the point. It's like we have to decide that we're navigating our lives to a higher state. And so, but we can't depend on anyone else to do it for us. And so we've got to do it ourselves. And then the more of us who come together, it gets easier.
yeah, yeah. Isn't that what it's all about? Coming together. By
Yes.
yeah.
The age of
Well,
Aquarius. See, that's what they kept telling me too. Said we thought the age of Aquarius was someplace else back in the 60s or 70s or something. And I said, no, it's now.
so, yeah, I
And
remember that song.
exactly, exactly. So we kind of thought maybe that's when it was happening, but the actual movement of the planets and all is happening right now. It happened, and just
Yeah,
so we're in that period, moving into this place where we come together. The energies that are going to be prevailing in the planet are about coming to collaboration,
yeah.
coming together within ourselves and with others.
Yeah, I hear people say all the time, it's like, man, I've seen things in the last 5 years I never dreamed I would see happen. And it's like, yeah, wait till the next 5 years.
That's what was. They said the messages when I started doing the challenge sessions. They would say you're going to say the word unprecedented more times than you can possibly imagine,
Yeah,
and that's exactly what's happened.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Because we had to break. They said you had to break down the old stuff. It's about the destruction of what was old that didn't work, but we have to decide what we're going to build back, and we've got to build back something that is for each person meaningful, and we
Yeah,
got to do it.
yeah. Well, and we have to do it as individuals, and then when enough individuals do it, then we'll have a collective change of
Exactly.
things. And
Yes.
so a lot of people are still resisting. So that's what
And I
causes.
understand. I resisted listening because
Yeah,
we resist because that change, every change that we make causes us to be more vulnerable. We got to be
yeah,
seen. We got to be our authentic self, and that's not easy.
yeah,
Depending on what we've moved through in our life, what history we've had, or whatever it might be. And so then when we have that confluence of all the energies of the world coming on, it makes things a little chaotic.
Yeah. Well, I kind of feel, tell me if you agree with this. I kind of feel like we're at that point where we've had plenty of hints along the way and we didn't really take the hints. And so
Yes.
now we're coming to a point. It's like, okay, we're going to have to hit these guys over the head to get them to do some changes here.
Okay,
And that's what's
Blaine,
going,
I'm so sorry you said that. You see, the things that they would, and when I was doing the channeling sessions at the end, I would get warnings. They say, well, the world you want to see is not guaranteed.
yeah.
And that's what that we want to see. It says because we have to do something, and that do something that what we were meant to do is just to own ourselves. Doesn't mean tearing down anything. It's like each individual. Because Wilhelm said we have a different philosophy. You see, they said we believe that every person has value and worth and comes to the earth to offer something. That's a very different idea than what most people are thinking.
Yeah, most people have a black and white idea of this is
Yes,
good and this is evil and so on. But a lot of that so-called darkness or evil isn't necessary, and it's two ends to the spectrum, is what I always
that
try to say
that
to it.
and then that's exactly what and they said and then when but they said what happened was and they had me go through this they said many times you're not recognizing that you have both within you that you
Yeah.
have those that those conditions within you that you didn't maybe necessarily create, but maybe you inherited it, maybe you picked it up somewhere, but whatever your job then is to decide, okay, let me let go of the lower vibrational stuff and let me accept the higher vibration of who I can become.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So tell us what you said that you came to find out why you called it Wilhelm. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, it just came. I just love this so much because it came out in bits and pieces. One day, I'm sitting and I'm just with my phone, and I look at my phone, and there was a Myers-Briggs personality test result sitting on my phone. I go, I've taken the test before, but I hadn't taken it then. I go, why is this here? And I'm looking at it, and it had the archetype of the advocate on there. And I'm saying, okay, and I started reading it, and I go, wow, that sounds exactly like me, but I haven't done that. I didn't do the test then, and I don't know why. Why is it? How did it get on my phone? And so then when I'm looking at it on the top, right on there, usually have a quote from some famous person who was that archetype, and this one was Goethe. And I said,
Okay.
that's interesting because they said, and Wilhelm said, see, when you lived in Chicago, remember that? In 1978, and you moved to New York, the last street that you were on was Goethe. You didn't know what it meant. You didn't even know how to say the name. This is what I'm going on. Okay, I never even looked it up. And so I'm hearing that and I'm looking at this. It still took me a while before I looked further. And then I go in and I start looking at Goethe's biography. He wrote Wilhelm Meister, The Search
Oh,
for Self-Actualization. I go, oh crap, that's what I've been doing. And that's there. And then it went further. And then they kept revealing more. They started saying, because they gave me things in the synchronistic way over years, which I didn't understand. And they started talking about Carl Jung. And I said, that's fascinating. I've never studied Carl Jung, but I started listening to his stuff and I kind of understood it. So I'm listening to the Red Book one day. I finished it. I was on a trip. And at the end of it, Carl Jung is thanking Wilhelm. I go, what? Where'd that come from? And then again, another connection. And it was
mm,
Richard Wilhelm who had worked with Carl Jung and had brought in this other information. They really worked well together. And then he also brought back the I Ching. This Richard Wilhelm. I go, that's fascinating. Then they said, well, but we're not done with you yet because there's another reason. Now I'll go look up Nietzsche. I go, what? Oh, yeah, see, Wilhelm was his middle name as well. And so they they want you to understand that we have a connection of information and intelligence that we just pass on, and we decide if we're going to pick it up or not. And they said, and I picked up a lot of it.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was kind of it was just shocking every time something would be revealed. I go, oh, I had for the longest time I had no idea why that name would have come out of my mouth. I said, I'm not German. But then they started explaining more of that because we're moving through a time now where Germany was really important in terms of the evolutionary change that we're moving through. And so
Oh, that's interesting.
they wanted us to remember that as well. And that's why Germany became important.
That's really interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Before they said, yeah, because you said it already. We miss things and we keep repeating things. And they said, well, maybe if you looked at this, you wouldn't have to repeat it. Okay, so 2 years ago, and I didn't get any of this, but 2 years ago, they had me writing about Barbenheimer. I go, what? This was, I don't know if you remember, but when the movie Barbie came out, and
Right.
then Oppenheimer came out at the same time, the same weekend, and we were just
Okay.
coming out of the pandemic, all kinds of stuff, and the economy was terrible. And so people were going to the theaters now and seeing both films. And it became this big thing. They made all this money from these two films, and it kind of boosted the economy because we needed it. And then somebody penned the name Barbenheimer because people were seeing both films at the same time. And then Wilhelm says Barbenheimer. This is so bizarre though. I get a message, they say Barbenheimer wasn't accidental either. I go, what? But then they gave me this whole scenario about how those two people had created something and then it magically came together to make us become more aware. Because Barbie was about seeing all people as being the Barbie in the Ken and not just certain people being Barbie and Ken. That's why she changed all the people. And nobody could figure out why is everyone Barbie and Ken? She was trying to make a point. But
Yeah.
some of us didn't get it. And then, but why Oppenheimer? Well, see, he was trying to say, well, wait a minute, you made a bomb before that you had a war and you started killing a whole bunch of people because you didn't get rid of your anger. Oh, maybe we could do that now.
Yeah. It's time.
Yes.
Yeah. That's crazy. So how long before you started noticing all these synchronicities that were
Uh,
coming into your life?
only in the last, because I didn't know, only in the last year, probably, because what would happen is, oh, no, it's been about 2 years now, that they started doing something that was so bizarre. They would take me to, it started happening in 2020. No, I'm sorry. It happened in 21. It started happening in 2021. I used to always get up every day and write a new message. I receive a new message every single day. But when they revealed to me, and I'm out for a walk in 2021, they said, we gave you everything you needed to know in 2012. I go, what? That makes no sense. I come into my home and I go to my computer and I'm led to a folder that I'd never looked at on my computer that said Wilhelm. And I'm thinking, how did it get there? Maybe it was an assistant. Somebody put it there. I didn't know. I open it and there was 2012. I go, what? All these messages. And I'm going, that makes no sense. Then I said, so after that happened, I'm just like, I'm doubting it all. And then I had a meeting early one morning and I didn't have time to do my message that day. And my Wilhelm says, it doesn't matter. Just pick one from 2012 and use it. It'll work for now. What? And I did that. I'd never done that. I felt guilty about it too. And so I put it out there. And then my associate that I work with later that day, he read that message. He says, that's exactly what I needed to hear today.
Yeah.
And they said 2012. And I didn't even think of this. I'm in a group and people said, Roger, don't you know that's when the Mayan calendar ended? And people thought the world was going to end in 2012. So, oh yeah, that seems familiar. So then I said, and it was supposed to happen on the solstice on the 21st of December. And I remember people were getting rid of things because we weren't going to be here. And I went back to my messages because I didn't know. And I went to look to see what they had given me on that date. And the message was, wait. What? They didn't go into detail. I didn't know this, but they said the world wasn't ending. We were creating a new one.
Okay.
And so that was a cycle that we were moving through.
Right.
And many people have talked about there was a thing called the 2012 phenomenon. There's been so many. I didn't really know any of that, but channel, I just downloaded all the information, which didn't make sense. Then they told me another thing. That was nuts. Oh, what's your we're just gonna what's your birthday? Just your month and day.
Mine,
Yes. Just your month
De-
and day.
December 22nd.
December 22nd. Hang on one second. Let me just see something. um because there was another thing that happened that was kind of funny, and I said this can't be going on. Um, December 22nd. Okay, 2012. Because they said if you talk to someone, if you come across someone, we've probably given you a message on their birthday in 2012, and so it says you will always feel less than as long as you are in physical form. The term less than, as it is being used here, means that in some way you feel inadequate, not complete, not enough, or whatever term may help you grasp the concept. This feeling means that you are still coming into acknowledgement and acceptance of the real you, which is precisely the journey of expansion or evolving. You would do well then to seek to embrace this feeling rather than to judge yourself for having the feeling in the first place. When you embrace it, you can then use it as a motivating factor to become more, to make changes or improvements that you feel are leading to the person you desire to be. That was the message that came through on your birthday.
Okay.
Did that make any sense to you?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Probably felt inadequate most of my life, and in some area or another, probably personality wise, but also uh, I've been a spiritual seeker for probably about 30 years, and I've always felt inadequate there. It's like I want more, I want to know more, I want to know. It's probably only in this last year where I really feel like I'm starting to come into my own, and which is why I'm doing these podcasts,
Which is why you're doing that. And that's because you're helping people with exactly what your birthday message was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think probably everybody could probably relate to that to some degree.
That's exactly. That's what they said. They said, what will happen is we have an energetic connection. And they said the information we've given you, yes, everyone's going to relate to some part of every message, but they said, but the person whose birthday it is that you might meet, it will relate to them a bit more. And so you said that that part of it. And but see, now you're fulfilling your purpose because of the work you're doing now. You're moving over that feeling and helping others to do the same thing.
Yeah, and I've always been a skeptic, so I could call myself an open-minded skeptic. People used to say, "Yeah, this world's going to end in 2012." I said, "Well, I guess I won't be seeing another birthday then, because my birthday's on the 22nd, so it's going to be one heck of a party, I guess." So, but yeah, wow, that's really incredibly interesting. So, what trying to think how to term this, but I guess what takeaways have you gotten so far, or what would you consider some of your more profound takeaways from Wilhelm that you've learned so
Everything.
far?
It's so I'm just been it's interesting. I've been able to figure this out. I've been using AI to analyze a lot of the messages, which has been really cool because I put them together in groups and they will say these are themes. And what they're saying is that we evolve in consciousness over linear time, individually and also collectively. So the information that they were giving me was about how someone could understand who they are as they're evolving. But they're saying this is a philosophy that people can use to create much better lives. And then if we do that, then we pass it on to others. That's how the world evolves. And so I said that seems like a bit much, but I keep finding that it's working. So.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. We're all connected. Your thoughts, your words, everything
Mhm.
energetically goes out and attaches to whoever you're thinking about or talking to, and
Mhm.
so on and so forth. More than we realize, and I've had some personal experience with that and have healed some family rifts that way
Right.
by
Yes.
changing my thoughts about them and that kind of thing. And so people
And
don't
that's what we're
realize,
really most so much of that is going on right now. And
yeah,
I hope people understand because it's just it's that you're going to have this conflict because everybody's going to want to be right, and so
yeah,
you just have to find your truth. That was basically the message that they were. I think maybe one today. I'm finding your truth, and they would give these messages like, "If we could figure it out, your truth is always correct." And they're talking about the truth that when we come into our heart, when we start to relax and embrace who we are, that'll be the truth for each person. So it's going to look different than everyone else's. But when you come to that place of fulfillment and peace within yourself, that you've accepted who you are or your life mission or journey or whatever it might be.
yeah, yeah, that's important. Yeah, this I've said this a few times before on some of the other people that I've interviewed. This is what I'm doing now for the first time feels like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing for
Yes.
one 100%. You know,
Yeah.
I felt close on a few other things in my life, maybe at 98%, but this is like, oh, but I always felt like, oh, there must be something more. And this here, now that I'm doing this, it's like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be
I
doing.
am
It feels
so
like,
glad you said that. And I hope more people hear it because I'm 74. I mean, I'm taking the next. I'm going on the next venture of my life now. Which people say that doesn't make sense. Yeah, I've had all these other careers, these other things that I have done, but like you, this feels like me. And so
yeah,
when you get there, it doesn't matter or whatever age it might be, just you know what it feels like.
yeah, yeah. It's like coming home almost, you know.
Yeah.
So just lack of a better way to put it. So,
Yes.
well, you don't look 74. I'm 66, and so
Well, it's just uh, it, sometimes when we've done a lot of releasing, we can kind of like change things in aging, but and then genes have a lot to do with it as well. I know, but there's something that I want people to know that we have this ability because I've healed so many physical things as well with this work because you start to understand more about yourself. And so I want people to understand that even that mind body healing is available when you start to become aligned with who you are.
yeah, yeah. I think that's important too. And a lot of people are coming around that. I interviewed a young man, um, Tony Piazza, and it's a couple of videos ago, and he was talking about this solar flash. I think he
Mm-hmm.
called it a solar flash,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
and he says when he said between now and 2030 sometime, probably this is something he saw in vision, and he said then we'll begin aging backwards to about 35 years old. And I said, really? And I said, well, that that sounds good. I'm all in on that
Well, I'm kind of going backwards. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know, but I just think that whatever everybody will have different ideas about where we might be going. But I want people to understand what they can do now,
Yeah,
depending on where they might go later. But because that's what we need is for people to really just know how important they are in the world now. That's all.
yeah. That's an incredible message. So, are you up for doing some channeling on this, or
Oh,
um,
yes.
if you want to? I'm not trying to pressure
Okay.
you. You know.
I'm no. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna give everybody one sec. I'm gonna give everybody a little gift too. So this is gonna be fun because it's just happened. Okay, and it is. We're so pleased you're here. Now you can claim your new life. That's where you all are now. You're moving through things in your life that you could not have understood before, but you're standing at a wonderful place now. And so, what we had our messenger do is give you some more fuel on February 1st because it's an energetic day that more of you would start to understand where you're moving in your lives because you each came to offer something to your world during this time of change, which we have called a restructuring. Restructuring means that you're coming to understand that you can accomplish more within yourself and also within your world because you each come to do that. You come to offer something that is within you. The biggest difficulty that most of you have is thinking you're insignificant, thinking that you don't have anything to offer because you haven't haven't understood energy yet fully. Well, you do that as you move through your civilization. More of you begin to understand that our messenger, for instance, is just discovering that we have given him things at energetic times throughout his life, but also in your universe, because we wanted all of you to have it. And so what we had him do on the messages that you will see on February 1st of 2025, we had him go back to 2008 and just put a sentence from each line, from each message that we gave you, just the first one. And if you look at it, you can get a sense of how you will evolve over time in your consciousness to get to who you're meant to become. Your age doesn't matter. When you get there, it's a process in your evolutionary path, and you each have one. We know that many of you feel like you don't have a divine plan, and you don't even want to hear those words because they seem really ridiculous, but we're saying you do. And we've had our messenger prove it to you, because we've put out things that when you read them, you will see how you evolve in your consciousness to become more if you become willing. Now, we're saying that because many times, many of you don't want to look at yourselves because you think you're going to find something in there that's bad. We're saying it's not. Whatever you did before was something that you were learning to bring to the world that's going to help become more if you can let go of your judgment of yourself. All we wanted you to do was to love yourselves, because the more of you who decide to do that, your world will change. Now, you won't necessarily accept that your energy is that important, but when you start thinking about the cumulative energy of all of you coming together and deciding to put love into yourselves and into the world, can you see where that would lead? And that's where you're going. And this is all the work that we've given you, and you'll see the trajectory when you read that message on our site, anyadvicefortoday.com, because we always want you to have advice, because you are each here to do something wonderful. We know that, even if you haven't found it yet, but you will. We just want you to keep going, and we love you all so much.
And he's back.
I'm back. Yeah.
Well, that was a fantastic message, actually.
Great. I'll hear it later.
I was going to ask you. So, you don't remember what you were saying, or do you remember just bits and pieces?
Bits and pieces. I just know about tomorrow that bits and pieces, but I don't have it all together. Yeah, I have to go back and listen. It's really fascinating too. I want other people to understand, when they first told me about the 2012 messages, and I went back and I started reading them, it was shocking to me, because I said, wait a minute, I wrote them. Why they seem so different now? I mean, I can kind of understand them, but it took me, I would pick up a message and I would stare at it, and it would take me a while to figure it out. I go, wait a minute, but I wrote it. It came through me those years ago. But we don't hold on to everything. We don't hold on to even the stuff that we've been taught or we know. And so review is really important. We have to take into consideration how our physical brains work, you know?
Yeah, the limitations of them.
Exactly.
Definitely. So does that take a lot of energy out of you, or have you learned to
if I'm doing what I'm not a lot. I mean, it is a little draining. If I like when I do a channeling session of full, it's usually about an hour or so. So yeah, I have to like rest after that. But I'm getting to the place where I'm allowing it, I'm regulating it better. Like there were certain days I did like 2 private channelings on a certain day, and I thought I can't do that. I don't think, but I was able to. It was okay, because they were, placed apart enough, because I don't want to screw up the energies that I'm receiving.
That's awesome. Tell us a little bit about what you do for people in your. I'm reading your last development program.
Oh yes,
logo there.
It is something to get people just to understand who they are, and to have something that they can do consistently. I took when they first told me to put this together in 2021, said just take the messages and give them the messages and the assignments, I call them, and then I do a little video where I just explain what I got from it. Then they have questions that they answer, and they go into and it's mind-boggling what's been coming out of it, because at first I thought, you do one a day. People weren't doing that. It's like we had to slow it down, because they were getting into so deep. There's one guy, I think he's written a full book I mean, on there because there's so much in there, and they don't even have all the content yet. I only put part of it up there, so that's what I'm finishing now. Because what the only reason people don't get to where they want to go is because they give up and they don't have a way to stay with it. Or, even if they get courses on their own, they stop. And so I wanted something where they would stay with it. And so if they have it and they're doing it and they see the results, but they also come to a group call, a group coaching calls we have few throughout the week, because coming together with other people, you don't feel like you're the crazy one anymore. You know that you're going
Yeah.
through something and trying to develop, and to have comrades, it helps. And that's what we've
Oh,
done.
yeah, that's awesome. I always say the difference between success and failure is never giving up.
Exactly.
Most people quit, and I also say there's no failure, there's only quitting.
Yes, that's it. That's exactly it. Yeah. I use
Uh,
the Thomas Edison one. I loved using that so much when he was nowhere complaining he hadn't gotten the light bulb. He said, "Well, I didn't fail those many times. Well, what was it? I only I had 9,999 times it didn't work or something to
yeah,
find the right one."
yeah, yeah. And that's just it. If he'd have quit somewhere in there, yeah, who knows how long it would have took for somebody else to figure that out.
Yes.
So so yeah, that's an important message for everybody. And we've all quit, in our
Oh,
lifetimes in
many times.
different
Yes.
different areas, and you learn that, especially as you get older. It's like, yeah, perseverance.
But sometimes you'll figure out too, like you have, like sometimes you quit for a reason that you had to be moved to somewhere else.
Yeah.
Sometimes that comes up. You start to see that.
Yeah, I don't necessarily consider that quitting. I consider that learning.
Progressing. Yeah.
Yeah, progressing, And so, yeah, there's sometimes where the diminishing returns. It's time to quit and reevaluate and maybe come at it from a different angle or do something different. But
Mhm.
ultimately, the end goal is the same. So, and it's all for our development.
Absolutely.
You're either winning or you're learning.
Yeah. Exactly.
And some of us have done a lot of learning.
Oh, tons of it. Yes. So that's why I'm the greatest person to get to do this work, because, yeah, I can show you everything not to do.
Yeah.
But when you get that, you achieve the kind of success that you want to have in your life. And I know that every person has that ability. And it's not about, I'm not talking about this kind of, being rich and all that, but when you feel fulfilled with who you are and
Yeah.
ownership of who you are, then all the other stuff will come.
Yeah, that's something that's finally starting to change in society is the material success isn't, that can be a part of success, but that's not, the whole thing.
And
That
and that's why they gave me that message when they had me start doing channeling, because they said we would see that in our world where we would have more control for money and all of those things, and miss the how we could take care of ourselves and others if we started thinking about that in a different way.
Yeah, start looking out for our neighbors. Yeah, because our legacy, humanity's legacy, has been, wars and crises and all these kinds of
Exactly.
things, kind of kicking us down the path of evolution. But we're at that point where I've been saying, gee, I hope we can evolve for a change without having to have a war or a crisis or something.
Yes.
And we might have some small crises, but unlike some of the terrible things of the past.
And that's why I had to move too, because in 2020 they gave me messages like that. They said, sometimes you need leaders like a Hitler or a pandemic or the United States that just lost its way for a little bit. I said, what? He said, you need those things so you can correct them.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. And I tell people this individually too. I said, you'll get hints on which way you're supposed to go. And if you don't get the hint, they'll get stronger and they'll get stronger.
Exactly.
And then if you still don't get the hint, you'll get a crisis that,
Yeah.
will either force you to change or you may die in the process if you
That
don't, if you resist.
that was one of the messages, one of the titles today says, sometimes it feels like you're being forced to change.
Yeah,
And we've all felt that.
yeah, yeah,
Something's pushing us.
yeah. You
Mhm.
got to listen to that inner voice,
Yes.
if you will, and that's taken me a lifetime to learn that too. So, well, wow. So, do you have any other messages for humanity or for individuals or for
Just
me
that
or
I just want people to be aware of the energies that they will feel in the world moving forward, because we're still in the midst of the change. And so what happens is, when we resist moving into where we're supposed to go, then we are putting that into the world and we're having all this kind of chaos. And so but we're also going to notice others who are not willing to change. And we have to decide that, okay, well, that's not going to be us. That's each person has to decide, are they going to move with the changes of the world? When your friend was talking about the solar flares, for instance, that's something that people had not understood how they might affect us emotionally, mentally, spiritually, because we are affected by everything. And sometimes they're really heavy, those things. And so, but I think it's also to wake us up a little bit.
yeah, that's awesome. Any particular possibilities of events for the future that you've come across in your channeling or that you would want to share with us or
About
not?
things that might be coming, you mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No. They said that we're doing it and we have to decide. And this is what happens. Wilhelm says, we have nothing to do with what you guys are going to do. We know where the planets are going to change. We see, they say the planets are going to continue to change. The energies are going to keep moving because this is something that no one has ever experienced. We are the planet Pluto, for instance. No one has experienced that movement, and it's because it takes 248 years. The United States was around for that long, and so that's why it's experiencing that energetic shift and bringing up everything. And so now what we're meant to do is to figure out, well, what am I supposed to do? The change is causing us each to move to a higher state of understanding of us. That's what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, I always tell people it's all up to us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, sometimes the higher entities or the higher self can have some insight into where we're trending towards. I know nothing's cut in stone.
Well, they have plenty of, and that I just heard it in a challenge session from 2021, and where they got a little animated. They said, it's because you haven't moved yet. We're seeing where things are going, and what's wrong with you? They're probably yelling at me, all of us,
Yeah,
because we were still a little bit afraid. We were still a little bit timid. We were still a little bit too shy. And then they said, you can't worry. He said, the best part of you would never harm another. And they're appealing to those of us who have this benevolent nature that we know is there. And so, but we sometimes become afraid to speak about it because of that energetic thing. But this is the period where we must embrace that a lot more. That's moving into that age of Aquarius, and that's what we're doing.
yeah, yeah. That's great. Yeah, a lot of people are learning that they can't keep living in fear
Mm-hmm.
and have to move forward. And and that's another thing that I tell people. I said, well, humanity's been manifesting its fears for millennia.
Yeah.
It's time to manifest our dreams. That golden age that everybody's looking forward to, and that
Yes.
all the holy men from ages past have prophesied about, or told us that is coming. But it's still up to us. We have the choice. So
That's the message that they gave me in 2008 on the new moon that we just had.
wow.
And I thought that was interesting because I can go, going back because they give me stuff that's really aligned with, and I said, how did this happen? That's something, but maybe, oh, you know what I'll do? Let me read that one because I want everyone to
Okay.
have it.
Sure.
It is, yeah. This will be good. Where'd it go? All right. Let me go here. It's my phone's not cooperating with me, but it was on the 20. We had the new moon on the 29th, and so I was, I just wanted to see, well, what did it say there? And I was in Malibu actually on that not in Malibu. I was online with them group in Malibu, and they were still coming through the fires
Mm.
that were just horrible. Unfortunately, the people there, most of their homes were still there, but they were still dealing with this horrible grief. Why is this happening? Why is this happening to us? And the message on January 29th, 2008 was this. And I read it to them all in the group, and they felt a little better. Okay, it says, you have all provided yourselves with challenges in your lives in order to provide you with the opportunity to break free. You desire to move beyond fear, limitation, lack, guilt, shame, and any manner of behavior that blocks you from experiencing your innate powers and abilities. It is completely up to you what you choose to do. Accept them or return to old behaviors. Do not discard your imaginative fantasies, for they provide you with insight into the life you truly desire and are fully capable of creating. Enjoy it all. That was the message. And it was on that day. And they felt grateful. It was just so synchronistic. That was just really too much. But we have to look at things that way. When this terrible stuff happens, we have to know that we can rebuild us. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, every challenge is an opportunity.
Yep.
That's another thing that's taken me a lifetime to figure out. But
Well, but that had to. But you couldn't help people. You had to. You had to know, and so you had those experiences. Those are like wealth for you because you have that experience now. You know.
yeah, yeah, and most of the people who have done great things, for the masses, or even just in their sphere of influence, have come through some kind of
Absolutely.
heavy trauma or events or experiences that they learned from, and that triggered their motivation. Say, hey, I
Yes.
want to help other people who are
Exactly.
having this,
You
and so
got it.
they rise up to more of their potential and do that, and so.
Yes.
So those things are good things so that you can look back. I look
Mhm.
back on some of the most problematic times of my life or the roughest times of my life and realize, that made me who I am. And I'm grateful for it now. Whereas at the time, it seemed like it might have been the end of the world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you earlier and I forgot, did you have any religious background or anything?
I
Um,
grew up as a Christian. Well, when I was younger, I grew up as a Christian Scientist. That was our early
okay.
religion. Part of my mother's side of the family, my father's side of the family were Baptists, but they went to church, but it was just a kind of obligation. My
Right.
mother's side, my grandmother, for instance, she was a devout Christian Scientist, and that's where I really saw a lot of what could be done. Because in Christian Science, they would only use their mind to. They wouldn't go
Right.
to doctors and all of that. And I said I couldn't do that. It was difficult, but she was an example because at one time I'm looking at her, I'm going, why are you always so healthy? Why? I don't get it. And then she said, I remembered that she said, you work to the level of your understanding. And then I think about that, and she was at her desk every single morning studying something, studying the book that came from Christian Science or the Bible or something. She was just studying something every day, and she was doing it, and so she was changing her mind. But she wasn't
Yeah.
sick. She was being connected. She was the most, and the only time I ever saw her. I think one day I saw her in bed with a cold or something. And then the only time I saw her really break down and cry was at my grandfather's funeral.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that Ernest Holmes? Isn't he the founder of Christian Science
He
or
no,
one of
he
them?
was Science of Mind.
Oh, okay.
Mary Baker Eddy,
Okay, Mary Baker Eddy. That's right.
Christian Science. Yeah.
So yeah, and there's a lot of good wisdom in a lot of those in a lot of the
Yes.
religions and stuff. And I would consider myself more of an what is it? An omni an omnist. There's truth in all things, and
Exactly, and
you
that's
look.
and I love founding that. I like that you said that because yes, Wilhelm says, "Well, we want you to move over the dogma, but just understand that there's always some truth in every. It's just that as
Yeah.
humans, we kind of change things over time, but there, that pure truth is there for all of us."
And I think more people are realizing that now too. So I came through Christianity also, and so
Mhm.
um, but I've always been an analytical type mind person. I always had to turn everything inside out and upside down and study the history and
Me
all that
too.
kind of stuff.
Yes,
And
yes, yes.
so, which kind of led me out of the traditional churches and things.
Right.
And so, well, Roger, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you,
Thank you. It was
man.
great.
I've enjoyed it. And is there any parting words or message that you would like to leave the audience before we
Um, I,
go?
I, I just want people to believe in themselves. I just want them to know that they have the goods to do whatever they're supposed to do now. And that the universe is like aligning the energies, no matter how terrible it's been the last several years or however long, is we're moving in a different direction. We just have to know that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So do you see a bright future for us?
Yes.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yes.
Some people don't see that.
Yes. Yeah. But
And
I
so,
do, and because I know that we can do it if we just do it. We just got to do it. That's all.
yeah.
We got
Yeah,
to just love ourselves. That's the main thing.
what's the saying? Where attention goes, energy flows. So put
Yes.
your attention on that bright future, folks.
Yes.
Well, thank you for coming on the show, Roger. I really appreciate you taking the time out. And again, it was awesome.
Thank you so much. It was great being here.